All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. I'm so excited to see y'all. We have another great show for you today, as always. And I am, joined by my better half, and I'm so excited. But today we're really going to be talking about the happiness gap, the truth about purpose and fulfillment. And listen, we're going to get into it because we got one for you right after this. Awesome. Welcome back to the show, love. Can't hear you. Nope. Thought we were going to be able to troubleshoot that. And so while he gets his microphone together, we will, this topic, the happiness gap, is something that has been near and dear to me as a positive psychologist. Y'all know I study happiness. I study strengths. I operate from a strengths-based perspective. And it is so important that we understand that we don't always only have to focus on our weaknesses, that we can focus on our strengths. And we also can focus on our happiness, and that it's not somebody else's job to make us happy. And me and Dr. Ramsey learned that the hard way. Is your mic fixed? Nope. So we are going to get that fixed. And so I'm writing a new book, and it's called Create Your Own Happiness. And as it pertains to creating your own happiness, I think that there is a bit of personal responsibility that is in creating your own happiness. And what that means to me is that you're responsible for your own happiness. And I think that a lot of times, especially when I go into organizations, that other people, I see other people thinking that their jobs, or, in their personal life, their spouses and whoever else are responsible for their happiness. And that's just not the truth. We are all responsible for our own happiness. And I had to learn it the very hard way, because even as I was growing up, I thought that my mom was responsible for my happiness. And in a way, as children, it is our families and our parents' job to take care of us, but we got to learn our own personal responsibility. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't let me change it while we were on studio.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, you know what? We live and we keep it moving. So, me and, Jamil have our own real story around this. And I'm glad that you're back so that we can, talk about this. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tell everybody what your superpower is. I don't know if it changed from the last time.
It stays the same. My superpower is strategy and discernment. I'm really good with that.
Yeah, you are. And we complement each other. So we are talking about the happiness gap. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it is the disconnection between external success and internal fulfillment, right? For a lot of us, there's a disconnection between our external, how successful we look on paper, we look in real life, but we also then sometimes feel or don't feel that, right? We don't feel internally successful. And I just watched, I'm so excited. I just watched my girl, Kelly Rowland's, movie last night. So if y'all haven't watched it, it's on Prime. It's called Relationship Goals, I believe. And it was, I'm not trying to ruin it for nobody who ain't watched it, but the theme of this movie was very similar to the happiness gap. You can do all this. You can have the career, you can be killing it. But at the end of the day, you can do everything right and still feel not successful. And so for us, we have our own, happiness gap story. And I would love for you to kind of share a little bit of like, when did you realize that you ultimately couldn't make me happy? Because in our relationship, in the beginning of our relationship, I thought it was your job to make me happy. Like that's just how I thought. Like, we're in a relationship, you're my husband, and it is your job to keep me happy in this relationship. And if you're not doing that, something is wrong. But early on, you figured out that that wasn't your job. And I want you to just kind of walk everybody through what that was like for you. What was that for you, so that we can have this deep conversation?
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I thought that was my job too. But it all started really when I fired you as a client.
Tell people about that.
So, early, we're in our early 20s, or early mid 20s. It's the early 2000s, and you started your entrepreneurial journey. And I was your Mr. Everything as far as the back end support on that. Built your website, did your graphic design, print materials, the whole thing.
Maybe I was looking good. I was new to the game, but you would have thought that I was 20 years in. That's how good all of my everything looked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the success of the ventures didn't match what the company looked like. And you were completely unsatisfied with that.
Yes.
But rather than looking at the reasons why that wasn't popping the way you wanted to, it was constantly looking like, well, I need a new website, I need a new set of headshots, I need a new identity package. And it was just this constant thing of trying to, me trying to make this work. And I was a new husband. I put everything into trying to make this thing work, until one day I realized, like, this is not on me. And then there was a lot of tension in the house. We fought a lot about it, just for what I was putting in, and the positive signs I could see immediately. I wasn't getting anything but crap and tension and a whole bunch of stuff. So it showed up as us not being able to work together, but ultimately that ended up not being true. It's that there was just misaligned expectations.
Oh yeah, I had some expectations because number one, you were my husband. So it's just like, you have to do this. You need to do these things for me, and you had the skill set to do them. I wasn't like most people where I had to go out and find somebody else to do these things, because I knew you had the skill set and you could do it. So in my mind, it's the rightful thing to do.
Yeah. So what firing you as a client really showed me is that I was operating out of a deficit. I was trying to pour into this thing from an empty cup, and I realized that I put all of my eggs into your basket of happiness, and I neglected myself at the detriment of the family.
Ooh, baby. Okay, so pause. So you were working out of a deficit, like, meaning you wasn't worried about, yourself and even your own happiness, because at this time you still was working a job too. Yep. And you were trying to, this was not us working full time together. That was not it at all. You still had to work a job, and, it still appeased me and helped me become an entrepreneur. During that time,
on top of it, became a new father.
And became a new father. Yep. So we also went in and decided to have more children. We have an adult son, but then we decided to have more children. And I was still thinking that, it was still your responsibility. Like, I just couldn't see outside of that. But what was the thing? Was there like a specific moment or thing that just made you realize that this ain't working and I'm going to fire her? I'm going to let her go as a client.
Yeah, our marriage was falling apart.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah, I mean, we were just not getting along. It was not a positive situation.
Yeah. I can remember saying, I want it like this. And then you would argue with me and be like, it doesn't need to be like that. But it was all stupid because at the end of the day, it was just causing so much friction in our relationship. But I don't think I was content to continue arguing. But see, I didn't know another way out of that because, I mean, we didn't have money for me to hire somebody else to do the things, at least in my mind, we didn't have the money to hire somebody else to do the things that you were doing. And so you firing me also created a lot of friction.
Yeah, but it was the right friction. Like at that point, we need to figure out a path to move forward. And you needed to have an appreciation for what your business was and what it is to run a business.
Yeah, I didn't think it was at the time. Like, I was pissed. I was very upset with you that you did that you told me to find somebody else. But ultimately, of course, I think that it made me a better person. And it made me a better entrepreneur, a better business owner. Because prior to that, I really didn't know what it took to have to go out and hire somebody to, update my website or create graphics or social media posts or any of those things. I never knew what it took, to do that. And with you, letting me go, I had to go figure that out. But I can be honest. I mean, yeah, you know this, of course. I mean, this is nothing new with us. Between us, I was very mad for a long time. Because I had to do that. And I thought that was your responsibility. But you stood your ground. You did.
Yeah, no, I told you, like, I'll ride and die with you, but I have to take this time to work on myself and figure that part out.
Yeah.
So that's what ended up leading me to job transition and then to ultimately going back to school and getting on a track where I knew what I wanted my life to be in. Then at that point, I could figure out what my role in the family should be.
Yeah. Yeah. But another significant moment happened after you fired me as a client. I think you started thinking about, like you just said, your future and your happiness and your role in this family. And you came home one day. And this is how I remember. I feel like it was out of the blue. You came home one day and you were like, yeah, I'm going back to school.
And it was almost like that. It was actually a phone call from my desk.
Well, like I said, I just knew that you told me you was going back to school. And now y'all have to know that during this time in our life, we were young, we was broke, we were not making a lot of money. My business wasn't making a lot of money at all. And so I am a social worker at the time, but I am trying to run this business because I knew that social work for me wasn't going to be the long-term solution. And Jamil was, I think you were like,
I was still working as a support. I was working as a support analyst in DC.
Yeah. And so you call me or whatever and say, I'm going back to school. And y'all, my first thought was like, what? Like, but why? Y'all, I wasn't a positive psychologist at the time. I was on something. And I was like, wait, What? So my first reaction to you going back to school was not happiness and excitement that you were going to further your career and ultimately, the family was going to come up. It was just like, why? I was thinking about like, how is this going to affect me? And that's crazy. But that's where I was at. So, but when you made it to that point, what was your thought process about going back to school?
It was just a necessary thing. It was going to be, after hours. Wasn't going to interfere with the career. I was getting tuition reimbursement at the job, which was a part of my decision making process. So it's like, this is the opportunity. This is the time, and we were already in the dynamic where you were whipping me. What's in it for you? So that wasn't an unexpected response, but I wasn't looking for validation at that point. I knew what I needed to do to ultimately help the family was to make the sacrifice and go back to school.
Yeah. You just said something, I was in the mindset of what's in it for me. But you are in the mindset of like, what's going to make the family better. And I think that, people who ultimately think that the responsibility of happiness is on another person totally thinks like like I was thinking
Yeah.
at the time, right? Like, not let me be happy for you, but like, what is this going to do to me? Like, what is this going to do to my lifestyle or my schedule and all those kinds of things. And then you're on the other hand, like, I have to make me happy. And you kind of, said some words, around that time, but I can't remember, but it was around you needing to, you not being able to make me happy or focus on me. You needed to focus on yourself. What was that at the time? I'm sure you said it wrong.
Yeah, no. That was the conversation, and it was what led me to separating our working agreement together. Is that I can't spend all this time pouring this into you when there's nothing left for me to advance and to grow, and even what I'm doing isn't really moving our needle. I was like, I have to make myself better, and I need the bandwidth to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. You know, I think you've always been a wise person, but I think sometimes wisdom comes with age. Right, for some of us, right? I was just talking to someone earlier and they were like, oh, you had kids at a older age. I'm just not patient. And she was a younger woman in her 20s. And she's like, I'm just not patient and everything like that. And I'm like, well, I wasn't patient either, but at this point in my life, I'm way more patient than I was when I was in my 20s. And so you grow with age. But for you, I think for you to have that awareness at um, at such a young age is something that's extraordinary, which ultimately allowed us to still be together today after almost 23 years.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate just to being born with this temperament on top of being poured into by some pretty good men in my early life. So that helped. The other thing is I never I never hated you for it. I never was upset at you because I understood it. You were prior to us being married, you were a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
inherently makes a person be in survival mode all the time.
Yeah.
You're more
Yeah.
concerned about yourself and your family and the next moment. So I never held that against you. You lived that way for 7 years. That
Yeah.
wasn't
I
gonna
do.
that wasn't gonna change in the short time we met each other.
Yeah.
So so I had to make the decision to stay the course and do the things that need to be done and fight the battle because if we didn't fight it, it just wasn't gonna work.
this is true. But I feel like if it were left up to me, like I wasn't given the same energy, or I didn't have the same awareness that you did, at that time, right? The fact that you understood that no matter what you did, you couldn't make me happy. You had to make yourself happy. But I think it also goes deeper than like even just happiness. Like you realize that you trying to focus on me was not even moving the needle for what you could do, which, I mean, you're amazing. Like you're a CTO, of our company and everything like that. And you had those skills all along, but they needed to be refined and you needed more school. But I just couldn't see that. And I think that, if you're dealing with, your own level of unhappiness and you're expecting somebody else to fill the gap, there's a level of awareness that has to come into play.
Yeah, man, it's the reason why as humans we're relational. We don't have the ability to see our own blind spots. You have to have somebody that you trust around you to help you with that.
Yes. Oh my God. It's so very true. And this is why I love coaching, right? Because, you do have to have somewhat of a level of awareness to even hire a coach, but you got to want to answer the questions for yourself. Am I the problem? Am I the drama? Right? And the part for me, I was the drama, right? And so here we are. You call me and you say, I'm going to school. You get pushback from me in terms of going back to school because I couldn't see the bigger picture or how it was going to ultimately affect us in the long run. But you pushed forward regardless of me and all I had to say about it. What was that experience like for you being in, our relationship and still saying, I can't do nothing for you. You're going to have to do this for yourself.
By that point, I was resolved. I made the decision and I structured it in a way that it would not have a real bad effect on the family. I was still able to be present and provide the things I needed to provide, albeit a little bit tired and my evenings were shot, but for the most part, it was balanced in a way that it would work. And I knew inherently that this is a result-oriented operation, so I just have to push through to the point where I can get a result.
Yeah. Did what effect did you doing that have on your ultimate happiness? Like just period, and even the relationship?
Like I said, I understood where you was coming from. I was happy that I was moving forward. I understood what it will ultimately do for the family. So I had purpose. So I was able to derive joy and fulfillment out of that process, especially as I was going through classes and learning and growing and putting the pieces together.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you did. And y'all, just to my defense, I did come around. I don't want people to think I was like such a monster in this relationship. Oh my God, Dr. Kiki.
She absolutely was not. I mean, after that initial conversation, and I had answers because I always have answers.
Of course you do.
We were able to kind of have a positive piece on that situation.
Yeah.
I just made sure that I handled my business and I didn't create any reasons for conflict around it.
Yeah, no, you did amazing. But you've always given me motivation because I watched you, and this wasn't like a year. This was years it took you, because once you went on the journey of going back to school, you went and you ultimately end up getting a second bachelor's degree, right? Which I didn't know that was going to happen. And then you went on to get a master's degree in computer science. And then you went on to get a technology degree, PhD. And so from the moment that you decided that you could not, make me happy, and, this journey was long, and I ultimately got on board because I too went back to school and got a master's in positive psychology coaching, and then got a PhD in business psychology. And that PhD we did together at the same time, right? But it was in the name of it was in the name of not necessarily just ultimately being successful. It's just that we knew that we needed to fill a gap between just thinking about external success and then real fulfillment. But where the fulfillment came into play, it was that we two became more connected, right? Yeah.
Another thing that I realized through that process is I couldn't make you happy, but I had the power to change the environment we're in that made it easier for you to find your own happiness.
Tell them about it, honey. Tell them about it. God. I mean, it's the truth. Was that just a husband thing, or just a person thing that you realized?
I think it's both. I really had to examine what is the role of the husband. Once I realized it wasn't to make you happy, I had to really figure out what it is. So one of the things I realized is I set the tone, I set the environment. Plants can't grow in unfertile soil. So one of the things I was, tasked with is creating a better environment for us to be in. I mean, one of our biggest stresses was money. And above that was purpose. So once I figured out a purpose and I figured out a way to, increase our income, change our environment, change the way we live, create resources for you to find yourself, you were able to grow. And then you were able to go back to life and get your master's. And then at that point, when I was thinking about PhD, I mean, I watched you through this whole journey. I knew where you was trying to go. One of the reasons why I challenged you, like, hey, I'm about to go back and get my PhD. If you don't do it, you're gonna be angry, you're gonna regret. So go ahead and do it now.
Oh boy. I remember that conversation. So I was so mad. I was like, but y'all, we used to have conversations about, we might go get our PhD. We had several conversations about potentially going back to get our PhD, but it did take you coming home one day or on the phone, I can't remember which that was, saying, I'm going to get my PhD. I've decided to go back to school, and you better do so, because you know how you're going to be. You're going to be jealous and angry if you don't do it. And I was like, oh my God.
That was an in-person one.
I was like, are you kidding me? But that's just the move that I needed in order to go back, and finally finish it out. And I think this is a lesson for a lot of people who are listening to today's show and a part of the Dr. Kiki fam, is sometimes we know what we need to do, but we be waiting for this perfect timing to do it. And I don't necessarily believe there's any one perfect time to do something. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think that we were both insane, because when you came home and said that, we had Mackenzie, who was a baby, and we decided to both go back to school. And she a baby, less than one when you decided that. That's crazy.
Time doesn't stop for anyone, and the right time to do it is when you decide to do it.
The right time to do it is when you decide to do it. And it ain't based on all these other things. And then as a matter of fact, during my first year in school, we got pregnant with Walter. So talk about timing. And we both were getting, so y'all, to paint the picture, we have 2 kids under 2, and we're both getting PhDs at the same time. That's insane. But I will say that nobody can tell us that they can't do it, right? Because you can do it.
Yeah, and it was definitely difficult. I'm still fighting my full-time job, trying to maintain my standard of work there, make time for all the things required for my PhD research, and it it got hairy a few of those times, but we made it through. I mean,
We did. Yeah. And I don't think that us getting PhDs was more about there was some achievement in there, of course, right? But I also think that mainly it was about purpose, right? Like I know that going back to school to get my PhD in business psychology and ultimately studying how positive psychology affects the advancement of women in leadership, that's been a purpose thing. And we were talking about that yesterday. One of the missions of my company is to empower millions of women to be successful and to discover their purpose in life. That's a purpose thing for me.
It's the same thing. And what I know now, I didn't know inherently at that point, is getting a PhD isn't about the PhD. It's about the kind of person you become. You become a person capable of PhD level research that can be applied to whatever your subject area is. And that was kind of my driving factor, was to get a deep knowledge about the things I was interested in. And getting a PhD now set me up to do a lot of the innovative things that we're trying to do with our company now.
Yeah, y'all, there's so much more to come. And it's so fun that we actually get to do that because we are on a higher level. Of course, like I coach women all day who fall into this category. They may have this amazing job, maybe even making really good money, but they are misaligned, right? They have outgrown their career. And so there's this gap between their external success and their internal happiness. Every day I see the happiness gap playing out, and we give ourselves the excuses of, well, I make a lot of money. Oh, well, I'm too old. What would you say to people who are needing to reconnect to their purpose in life and really figure out what that is when they just right now feel really lost or unfulfilled?
I think the biggest thing is that if you're not learning and growing, you're dying.
Mm.
So don't stay in that place, because it's death. Figure out the things you need to do to grow. Now, I'm not saying quit your job and go live on a commune. Obviously we still have to live in this world, but there's always improvements we can make. Maybe you can't leave your job, but find some kind of a third option that can bring you some fulfillment, enjoying your life. I mean, there's something we can always do to make our life a little bit better, and it has to be purpose driven.
Yeah. And I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. I mean, I really do feel like we deserve to be happy. And I think that a lot of, people, when I'm having these conversations, don't feel like they deserve anything better. Even better yet, some people have stopped dreaming. What would you say to people who say, I'm too old? Because we are of a particular age. I know this year you have a big birthday coming up, right? And we took this leap, to be together, to work together this year. And so it's new, right? What would you say to people who are like, I'm too old for that. Like, I ain't trying to go back to school. I mean, or I don't know if I need to go back to school. What would you say to them?
I would say take a step back and examine what it is to be happy. I think fundamentally most people don't really understand what happiness is. I think people chase thrills and emotions and they call it happiness, but for most people, if you ask them to think about a true happy moment in their life, it's less about those things and it's more about fulfillment. So
Mm-hmm.
what it is to be fulfilled, what it is to find joy and find purpose and find a true level of happiness. That's not gate kept by age.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how old we get, we still have to figure out a purpose and a reason to be here. So just examining what that really means for you and
Mm-hmm.
then contextualize it later.
Yeah, I love that. I think that we all need moments where we can just sit down and sit back and just kind of think about these things. I think we live such busy lives. We're always on the go from meeting to meeting, conversation to conversation, and we never give ourselves moments to just be and sit back and think. And so I think that, you owe it to yourself to be able to do that, right? I think it's a gift. That's why I'm part of the 5 a.m. club. Is every time I wake up at 5, I get that gift of thought of just really self-introspection. So I love that. All right. So tell me, as we get ready to head out of here, what does a fulfilled life look to you right now?
Um, it's working on things that I find personally important. It's spending time with family and just trying to find one thing that can make the world a little bit better.
I love that. Well, I do know that your presence makes the world better. It definitely makes my world better. Not about happiness, but your presence. So, well, love, thank you so much for being on the show and having this conversation. I think it was super important for people to hear.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to really strive for fulfillment in life. And I think our quality of life will be a lot better if we did.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you all, thank you all so much for joining us on today's Dr. Kiki Ramsey show. If you are feeling like you are not sure about the direction you need to go in your life, check out the Career Happiness Clarity Kit. I built this kit for those of us who not sure if we're just burnt out or we're misaligned or we've outgrown our career. You can find the link in the bottom there. And then also, please like and subscribe to this video if you're on YouTube. I certainly want you to come back and get more of this on a daily basis. All right, y'all. You have the ability to create your own happiness. So go out there and get you some. Talk to y'all later.
Thanks,
Peace.
everyone.